Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistuštuvagum Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitanyadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhishravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspati dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's pronounce the second mantra. Sarvam hi etad brahma, ayam atma brahma, soyam atma chatushpat. So this has three segments to it, this mantra. Sarvam hi etad brahma. First part. Which means that the entirety of the whole creation is a single vastu called Brahman. So there is a vastu, there is a person which constitutes everything in the world that has been, is, and will be. Everything. So that was given in the first one. Om ityetad akshara idagum sarvam tasya upavyakyanam bhutam bhavat bhavishyatiti iti sarvam omkara eva yaccha anyat trikalatitam tadapi omkara eva. So that person. So this is Omkara. Omkara is a name for Brahman. So Sarvam Etad Brahman. This is the first part. The second one is amazing already. Ayam Atma Brahman. So if you were to say, where is that Brahman that you talk about, which is the whole creation, which is the very substance of the whole creation, which is the whole creation. Where is it? So it says, Ayam Atma Brahman. So the teacher says, you. So this is a Nirdesha. Nirdesha means you. My God, you are that Brahman. And there we saw, this is a very important thing really. I think this will permeate through the entire teaching of the Mandukya Karika, that if I have to find Ishvara, if I have to find Brahman, if I have to find the entirety of the whole creation, it must be me. It's almost like pretty soon it will become very obvious to you that really, if anything else comes and goes, but you don't come and go. You are, in fact, independent of any time, any place. Wherever there is something, you are there. This is why we have to. It is something very easy to grasp and can be very difficult to grasp if one has doubts about it. So we will go into that, all of that. So the second part of this is Ayam Atma Brahman. Then the third part of this second mantra is Saha Ayam Atma Chatushpat. It says that the This Atma, which is Brahman, has four quarters, four segments. And so here we saw that there can be a question that you say that the Paramatma is nirvayava, has no parts to it. Then how come you're saying it has four parts? So there it is said that these are like the four quarters of a rupee, four quarters of a dollar, rather than the four legs of a cow. This is what Adi Shankara was pointing out. And so the four quarters of a dollar means that those are, you don't have four quarters like you put sometimes, in parking meters. Now it used to be that the parking meters used to have a dime, but they no longer have dimes, they only have quarters. And now in San Francisco, if you go, you can't even put any quarters. It has to be all credit card. So things are evolving. But anyway, it's not like four quarters that you put into a parking meter, but this is four quarters for imagination. So this is Adhyaropita. This is the meaning of Adhyaropita. Adhyaropita means let's pretend as though it is there. Very much like if an adult tells a child, what if I gave you a quarter? What will you do with it? So the child says, I don't know. I don't know what I can do. Like supposing a parent and a child are visiting a nursery. Nursery meaning where plants are sold and so on. In summertime, they become very popular. Everybody goes there to plant new seeds. So the parent can tell a child, listen, what if I gave you a quarter? What will you do with it? So his child says, I don't know. They said, what if you buy these seeds? And then you put them in. And then you water them. And then these plants will grow. And then strawberries will come out. And you can eat the strawberry. All those kinds of things can be done. And all with respect to an imagined quarter. So this is exactly what it is. This is going to be an imagined quarter, but a very important quarter that allows us to just like in the case of this parent and child, where you can imagine what you can do with it. Okay, then the thoughts can come over and then you can really conclude something. Yes, that would be good. The child also gets enthused. Yeah, I think that'll be nice if I can buy some seeds. And then, yeah, will you help me plant them? All those kinds of things can happen. Here also, the pada will be, it will help you to reach some place. So as we will see very soon, this is a step. Pada padyate iti. Pada means this is not a segment. It is really a step. And it's an imagined step. It is not even a real step, not something that you have to, you don't have to use your karma indriyas for this step. But you use your jnana indriyas for this step, as we will see. So anyway, so the answer to the question is, no, this is aropita, adhyaropita alone. So then, where we were in the last class was, okay, all right, so you say this is a step. What do I do with this step? I'll ignore that. So what will I do with this step? So it says, listen, these are 4 steps that will allow you to reach Paramatma, Ishvara. This is not an ordinary step. And so we will already start the first step today. We will see this. So you will, if you just follow these steps, these are not ordinary steps, you will actually reach the ultimate goal of life, which is to find Ishvara, which is to find yourself. So these are the 4 steps. And the four steps would be that this would be the analysis of the first step in the waking state, which is where we are at this point. We are both in a waking state, which will then dissolve into the second step, which will be a dream state. And so we'll go into all of that. What does it mean? What does dissolution mean? How does that help me? Then from the dreams, which is the second step, then the third step will be that the dream state, which already has a dissolved waking step, now both of them get dissolved into the deep sleep step. That's also a step. And that also gets now dissolved into something which, after that, there is no dissolution. Up to this point, the steps, there is dissolution, but in the final step, which is Turiya, there is no dissolution, which means that there is the final end, which is yourself, which is Turiya, which is Paramatma. And so this is how the steps will take. And all these steps are, so remember we talked about the fact that the 4 padas, 4 quarters of a rupee or a dollar are adhyaropita. They are imagined. They're not real. They're imagined. Like, some telling a child, pretend you have a quarter. And so, and this is what both Swami Maheshananda and Swami Akhandananda had pointed out repeatedly so well. They said, you don't say that the adhyaropa is not important. If you wanted to teach some advanced arithmetic to a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, then what you need to do is to say, okay, say you have 10 apples. So the child can say, but I don't have 10 apples. He says, no. Just imagine you have 10 apples. Okay, just be with me for a little while. Says, okay, all right, I can see I have 10 apples. Okay, so suppose you subtract 3, you give 3 apples to somebody. How many do you have left? So the child says, 10 minus, I don't know, 5, 6, no, think about it again. So all that, the pretension is for teaching advanced arithmetic. In the end, you say, okay, you gave 3 to somebody else, you gave 3 to somebody else, did you give 4 to somebody else, how many do you have left? Nothing. That's right. You began with nothing and you ended up with nothing. So this is what is called pravritti marga and nivritti marga. Neti neti iti adesha, which will be a foundation of this teaching as we go forward. So this is a utility of adhyaropa. So now the padas for Jagrat Avastha, for Sushupti Avastha, for Swapna Avastha are just like that. they are pretensions. We don't know that. We think it is very real. But as it will be pointed out, these are adhyaropita. And the ability for me to see that they are adhyaropita. Adhyaropita means that they are a superimposition only. They are a pretension. One way to really simplify the word superimposition, adhyaropita, is pretension. Pretend. This will come up. In much more detail later on, and we study. I'll just bring some of the examples that are in my mind. So here, Swami Akhananda says, supposing a person, supposing there is a teenager that gives a very graphic story. And the story is that, there was this boy and a girl. They were strolling together and hand in hand and enjoying each other's company. Suddenly, a car stopped next to them, and these 4 giant people came and separated them and took away this girl. And this boy was crying, "Don't do that." But they did not listen to him. They forced her into the car and they drove off. He's telling this story. And people say, "Oh my God, what happened? Where was it?" He says, this is the movie that I just saw. So Swami Akhandananda says, look at this. There's some very other examples that I will not have time to do that right now, but I'm just giving you this. Swami Akhandananda says, look at this. When the story is being told, you have no idea whether it is real or not. It could be real because the person may have actually seen this kind of an incident, or it could be just a story that, supposing you've read a novel. So when you read a novel, so this is what happens. Excuse me, a good novel can take you into a realm of something where, I'm sure this has happened to you, where you're reading, you're just absorbed as though it is real. That's how the mind is. So whether it is real or not is secondary, but the effect it has on you is something as though it was real. Similarly, here also, these padas, these adhyaropita padas and so on, this is just amazing. At this moment, these adhyaropita padas, these steps that we are going to be talking about very soon, they look like they're real. Just like the teenager was telling a story to his parents, and the parents, and he or she was doing a very good job of it. Do you know what happened? Oh my God. And so everybody was saying, oh good heavens, what happens then? So what happened? So what happened to the girl that was abducted? All of that creates a certain akanksha, some anxiety. And so it is very real. It looks very real until it is told. Then he laughs at it. He says, you know what? I just read a novel and it looks very, very disturbing. Or you can say, I just saw this movie on television or perhaps Netflix, and it was very disturbing. But it didn't really happen. The people will say, phew, We thought it was really there. Well, these things do happen, but it didn't happen in this particular case. So all we're saying is, this is exactly what is going to happen. As we tell, these steps that we are going to go through, these experiences, not only steps, but the experiences that we are going to go through look like they're very real. It's like my mind is telling me this is what the whole thing is. I am just here enclosed in this body, and this is what the world is. This is like a story. It's a false story. It's not real. And it's finally the Shastra comes around, just like the teenager, after scaring everybody, finally says, by the way, it didn't happen. I just saw it and I thought I would just tell you about the story. Similarly, the Shastra says, you know, this world that you're looking at and you're dealing with and you're scared and so on. Yes, what about it? It's not real. So that few will come when, so this is where the Shruti is important, because supposing if somebody just comes up and scares you and then says, oh, no, it doesn't happen, then you don't know whether the person to believe in that person or not. But if it is a reliable person, you know, I don't know, this just reminded me, I just heard this yesterday. We all are talking about artificial intelligence, AI. I just read this yesterday. This is becoming a very serious problem. Because what happens is, whenever you have these new technological tools that come along, the bad guys are 2 steps ahead of you. Why are they 2 steps ahead of you? Because you and I are sort of interested. Wow, AI, how will it help me? And this, that, or the other. And we are kind of casually interested. The bad guys feel, oh my God, this is beautiful. Now I can make a lot of money. So they're so focused on it that it is unbelievable. That's how they're 2 steps ahead of you. Because they put their minds and attention to it, because it is their livelihood. So this is what I heard, that now becoming a serious problem where AI goes into the voice signals of your loved ones and mimics it. They know how to use the frequencies so that the sound looks exactly like that. And then there will be a phone call from your own loved one saying, I'm in real trouble. Can you please come? Can you please send the money, because this is happening. In fact, I just heard that, yesterday I heard this, that in the recent election, there was in fact, hold on a second, this is my wife calling. Hello? I'm in the class.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. I think she forgot, because of the time difference, that I'm in a class. She's in New Delhi and we're coming back in a couple of days. So now, in just the last week or so, in one of the elections, President Biden was, his voice was transformed into some kind of a request for funds. Anyway, I don't want to go into any more detail. All I'm saying is that the difference between what is real and what is not real is not that much, and it can be that pretension can be very real. This is what is going to happen, and we do this. So anyway, that's the adhyaropita part of the pada. Okay. Now let's come to the first step, which is mantra number 3. Pratama pada, chatushpad. That was mentioned in mantra number 2. And then chatushpad means that 4 padas. And here is the first pada. So let's pronounce this. Jagritasthano bahish pragyaha saptang eko vimshati mukhaha sthula bhuk vaishwanaraha prathama padaha. Once again, Jagritasthano bahish pragyaha saptang ekona vimshati mukhaha sthula bhuk vaishwanaraha prathama padaha. Okay. So it says prathama padaha, the first step. So here Swami Paramarthananda prefers to use the first quarter, but I think in terms of the eventual utility of these steps, we should think of it as the first step. Vaishwanaraha. So Vaishwanaraha is the name given to the samashti purusha. So we will go into this in more detail. So there is, in the Jagrat Avastha, there is a Vyashti Purusha. Vyashti Purusha means a microcosmic person whose name is Vishwa. And that is you and I. Individuals are called Vishwa. So this is the Vyashti. Whereas the Samashti for the Jagrat Avastha is called Vaishwanaraha. It's kind of like, if you are looking at the Pacific Ocean, then a single wave is the Vyashti, whereas the entire ocean is called the Pacific Ocean. So Vaishwanara is the entire Jagrat Purusha. Now we'll go into all of this. Then Jagrita Sthana. Jagrita Sthana. So Jagrita Sthana means the place where the waking state is. This is a good way to look at that. Let's see if I made a make. No, I think I didn't put that word down. But either Adi Shankara's or perhaps Swami Akhandananda uses the word Vyavasthitaha. Jagrita Vyavasthitaha. So what it means is, that's a bit more meaningful. Means where you find it. The question is, if you're looking at these people, and I'm saying, there is a person called Vishwa, which is very obvious, you and I are, we don't have to be pointed out. But if we point out Vaishwanaraha, the question will be, where do I find Vaishwanara? Where is he? And saying, you'll find it when you are awake. At the place where you are awake. So there the doubt should not be, "Oh, I'm always awake." No, you're not always awake. When you are in a dream state, you will find a different person. That we will talk about. But here, the place of the waking state, you will find Vaishvanaraha, which is the whole thing. Okay. Bahishpragya. Next word is Bahishpragya. Bahishpragya means the one whose collection of thoughts is outwardly bound. Later on, somewhere in the Karika, Swami Akhandananda gives this very beautiful example of Bahishpragya versus Antavpragya. Outward bound and inside bound. The example is that suppose you are drinking hot coffee. So when you are drinking a hot coffee, the hot coffee in the cup that you're drinking, actually the touch of the cup also and the coffee is outward. When the coffee goes inside you, and you feel the warmth inside, that is inside pragya. What is inside? There are thoughts. Because when you're drinking coffee, sometimes you burn your tongue if you're not careful. But supposing you don't burn your tongue, but at least you especially in the hot chocolate, for example, in the very cold, you drink the hot chocolate and you say, now I feel warm. That feeling of warmth is antavpragya. And the touching of the cup and the hot chocolate outside is bahishpragya. Beautiful example. The bahishpragya. Then saptangaha. So it has 7 limbs. We'll go into that. Ekona vimshati mukhaha. That means it has 19 mouths. We'll go into that later. Sthula bhuk. Sthula bhuk means the one who is the experience of easily identifiable gross objects. Gross. I don't know, gross or gross. I can never tell. Objects. Sthula bhuk. So, the Prathama Padaha is Jagrita Sthanaha, Bahishpragyaha, Saptangaha, Ekona Vimshati Mukhaha, Sthula bhuk, Vaishvanaraha Prathama Padaha. This is the first pada. Now let us see the meaning of this. What does it really mean? Okay, to set the stage for this, so basically what this means is the first step is to move from a small body to a bigger body. That's what it is. Is to move from an identification with a small body to an identification with a big body. What do you mean by that? What we mean by that is right now, you and I have a conclusion and an identification. I am this body. This is our conclusion. This is what is called abhimana. Abhimana means an identification. And the first pada that we are talking about, Prathama pada, Bahishpragya, etc., Sthula bhuk, is the step to move from the small body to a big body. This is the step. So in order to see how to do that, because the question is, what do you mean? Wouldn't I always be identified with this body because this is who I am? How can I identify with a bigger body? The real reason, the question is yes, you'll be able to do it. Because the identification with the small body is also false. It is just like the teenager giving a story which looks real, but it isn't. That's the reason why it is possible to move from a small body to a big body. So what the thing is that you think that you are stuck in the small body. You are not. Why is it? Because that's a false identification. The falsity of the identification has to be proven. And we'll go into all of that. But this is the basics of the step. And the basics of the steps can be better appreciated. Even my accepting this step, which is an amazing step really, if you think about it. But even to accept this basic step, I need some help. I can't do it without any props. So here the Shastra says, this is where the prop of the dream state is given to you. My dear, listen carefully about the makeup of your dream state. It is not just casual. It is, and this is is given to you by Ishvara, by God. Recognize it. And so how is that? Let's go into that. So now to appreciate taking the step in the Jagrata Avastha, you have to understand the steps, not the steps, but the makeup of the dream Avastha. So the dream Avastha makeup has three parts to it. Okay? One is called the dream person, the dreamer, the dream person, which we will go into more detail when we go into the second step, which is the dream step. But we are borrowing the makeup of the dream in utilizing the understanding of the Jagrata Avastha. See, this is how it is. So the makeup of the dream Avastha is that you are a dreamer. Okay, this is number one. This is called Purusha. Swapna Purusha. Swapna Purusha means you are a dream person. Just like when you're dreaming, obviously you have an identity that happens where you're talking about your experiences in the dream as a person. So this is a person. The second one is the abhimana with the dream. So you are a dream abhimani. Okay? Now the dream abhimani does not become obvious until you come out of the dream. When you're inside the dream, you are only a dream Purusha. and you have other people that you're dealing with and so on. But the fact that I'm identified with the whole dream. I was really, my whole thing was mine. Does not occur until you come out of it. It's called dream, swapna abhimani. That's number 2. Swapna Purusha is number 1, Swapna Abhimani is number 3. And the third one is you are the drashta of the dream. You are the seer of the dream. You are the sakshi. Okay? So these are the 3 elements of the dream. All right? What are they? Purusha, Abhimani, and Sakshi. Okay? All right. So with that, now we can say let's apply that to the Jagrat Avastha. So in the Jagrat Avastha, same thing. You are the Jagrat Purusha. You are this is your thoughts, your conclusion. I am this much. This is the Purusha. And the second one is the Abhimana. So the Abhimana is also as a Purusha. You follow this? I mean, not follow this, but I mean, this is what we are doing, is that at this moment, the way you are identifying with these experiences that you are going through is as a limited being. So the Abhimana is that I'm a limited being. Okay? And I'll come back to it in a minute. The third part is that you are a Sakshi. So there also, just like in the dream state, in the Jagrat Avastha, you have a Jagrat Purusha, Jagrat Abhimani, and a Sakshi. The first things first, the Sakshi for the dream and the Sakshi for the Jagrat Avastha is the same. And we have no doubts about it. We don't have any questions about it. I am the one who saw the dream. I am the one who is seeing the Jagrat Avastha. This one is very clear. So that one we can eliminate. Okay? Now, the Purusha are different. Purushas are different. You as a dreamer is a different person than the Purusha you are as a Jagrat Purusha. So we'll deal with that a little bit later. Now comes the Abhimana. So in Abhimani, you are one other thing, yeah. So what happens is there is a difference between the Jagrat Abhimani and the Swapna Abhimani. The Swapna Abhimani does not remember anything about the waking Abhimani. Doesn't remember. But the waking Abhimani remembers the dream Abhimani. The waking identifier indeed remembers, doesn't remember very, very vividly, but does remember now and then. Sometimes, when you wake up, you remember your dream very well. Sometimes then you wake up and you say, oh, I don't remember anything. It all depends exactly on when you had the dream, what time you wake up, the type of dream that you have. It is disturbing, that it lasts some while. If it's not ordinary, then you don't remember it. All those kinds of details are there. But here's the point, that the Jagrat, the waking Abhimani, remembers the dream Abhimani, but not the reverse. So what that means is that the waking Abhimani dissolves into the dream Abhimani, not the other way around. You see, because the dream Abhimani stays open for a while, so it doesn't completely dissolve. Whereas when you are dreaming, your waking Abhimana gets completely dissolved. So this dissolution is an interesting thing that we will deal with later. Now comes the nature of the Jagrat Abhimana. The Jagrat Abhimana means the waking identification of dealing with just the Purusha is false. Dealing with the Vaishwanara is also false, but it is more real than identification with the small body. Both of them are relatively false, as we will see. Only Turiya is the real. But comparatively, the one which identifies with the small body is really false. Not really false. That's not a good way to say that. It is totally false, much falser than the other one, which is identification with the Vaishwanara. So it was interesting that in the several weeks back when we were doing the Mangala Charanam, the two prayer vakyas in the beginning, I had mentioned this fact, the same fact, that the issue is that in the dream avastha, when you come out, you are the dream Abhimani, that the whole dream was me. But here, that's not happening. You are only identified with the body. So one of the students, relatively mature student really, who's been studying Vedanta for a while, wrote to me. And she said, what you said may be true, but I cannot become an Abhimana with the whole creation in the Jagrat Avastha until I become Jivan Mukta. This is what she said. She said, Vijayji, I cannot visualize that I am the identifier with the whole creation, because that only when I become a Jivan Mukta I can do so. So I replied to her that that's not true, and we will discuss it later. And this will happen again and again, but let me bring it up at this point because the same point is there. So the question is this, or the answer is this, or a retaliatory question is this. Are you going to see the identification with the whole creation after you become Jivan Mukta? Which comes first? You become Jivan Mukta means a completely what they call realized soul. Yeah, Swami Dayananda never used to use that word. Means one who is a jnani, who understands the whole thing, who's free. So the identification with Vaishvanara only happens when you become a jnani, or do you become a jnani because you have an identification with the Vaishvanara? Which one is which one is which one comes first? Who's the father? Who's the son? Who's the mother? Who's the daughter? Should be do the same way. If you think that it should happen when you are a Jivan Mukta, only then you will understand this. The question is, how did you become a Jivan Mukta to begin with? So it's pretty obvious that that conclusion is not right. So that means that the identification with the entire existence, the Vaishvanara, has to come first. And that is the fact. Jivan Mukta is a result, not a cause. And one of the very important things to understand is, we talk about these padas, the steps. So it's a gradual process. It's not a sudden thing, as we will see. Not a sudden kind of a thing. How is it? It is exactly like if you are hungry, you're starving, you haven't had food for a while, and you really want to be satisfied. The sense of completeness, satisfaction means that I don't want to have any more, what is called alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means enough. I was very hungry, but now I cannot eat anymore. That's it. That buddhi. When does that occur? Is that a sudden process? When you're very hungry, is that alam buddhi comes right away? No. The way it happens is you eat something, 1/20th of your hunger is gone. And you eat something more, another 20th. Like this, slowly you become, I am not as hungry as before, but I am still not full. Finally, there comes a point where any more servings, supposing you're visiting someone, any more servings of khichdi or dal or sabzi or anything, you'll say, no, I cannot have any more. This is enough. So what that means is, I'm no longer hungry. It's exactly what is going to happen with us, as we will see. To move from an identification with a small body to an identification with the big body is not going to happen just like that. What will happen is that the hunger of becoming bigger, that's exactly what our situation in life is, that I feel very small and I want to be bigger. Bigger in the sense more fulfilled. And so I have to take steps. I have to take one step after the other. And as I do that, then at one time I become a Jivan Mukta. This is what needs to happen. So this is what we have to study. This is what I need some help. I need some props. At first, I have to understand the process. This is all we're doing, is that there is a possibility, there is a process. It can be done. It will be done. It is actually done. But we are still kind of like in a dreamlike state that I think I am still a small person, which is not true. Praptasya praptihi alone. But be that as it may, I feel I am not done. Sometimes I get these comments at the end of the classes that that I have to develop a certain mind before I can accept it. This is what happens. You're already free. Why don't you see it? I don't see it. All right, let's keep on looking at it, and not just foolishly, but by developing the right qualities of our mind. And then suddenly you'll say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I was already free. Freedom is not acquired, it is discovered. So this is what we have to do, is to really get the help to see, and this is what we will do in this Karika, to develop the skill to be able to change my identification from a small body to a big body. And at the moment, I find that the identification with the small body gives me all kinds of problems. All kinds of problems. It means that I'm fearful for my life. I'm very, all the other emotions that I have of protecting my wealth, being affected by things happening not only to me, but also to my loved ones. If there's somebody who's my daughter or son or granddaughter or grandson, if they're sick, I feel I'm sick. So this all stems from an identification with this person only. And what will happen is, as we go through this, that the pain of identification with the small body will lessen, will become less. It's a very beautiful word, in the word Upanishad. So the word Upanishad, that as you saw, we saw Upa, we saw Ni, and then Shad. So one of the three elements of Shad, is what is called Shithalikaranam. So when we studied that was very useful, the word Shithalikaranam. And now with this understanding that is now coming through Karika, to me it has become much more effective, this word Shithalikaranam. What is Shithalikaranam? Shithalikaranam means to loosen it. Loosen it. Loosen, loosen. And I can see the reality of that really in my life also. Because the promise of the Upanishad, the word Upanishad, which was explained by Swami Dayanandji in the beginning, one of those three is Shithalikaranam. And it was kind of like interesting, but no longer is interesting. It is a real one for me. What does that mean? That means, the loosening of the tightness. Because right now, before we begin the study, we are tightly identified with this body and all the repercussions of that, as I mentioned. The fact that I am only concerned with my own children and my grandchildren, my house, and the fears and problems that come along with it, all those kinds of things is very tight. There's nothing you feel there's nothing I can do about it. This is what I am, I can do the best I can. with the study, that becomes less. It's happening less and less. It's not gone completely, but it is like, you loosen the tightness of the, sometimes it happens you haven't opened something for years and the screw and the nut has become rusted. And just by doing it with a small screwdriver, it doesn't help. You have to really get some big ones and probably get some help to loosen it. Once you start loosening it, then things happen rather quickly. So this is exactly what needs to happen. So this identification with the big body is first of all possible. Number one. Not only possible, it is actually done. Secondly, there is a process involved. And so this process, Swami Kandananda pointed out, is very interesting. This process of going from the Vyashti Abhimana to Samashti Abhimana, going from identification with a small body to a big body, takes different forms depending upon your interests, your makeup, your personality. How? So if you are a prayerful person, emotional person, then bhakti becomes the path to go from a small person to a big person. How? This is what is called bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga means that you want to serve God, Ishvara Seva. You try to see everything as Ishvara. This is what a bhakta is. That you become softer in your approach, and you try to lead your life with an appreciation of the presence of Ishvara in your life. This is bhakti yoga. Okay, so this is one. Then comes karma yoga. Karma yoga means that you now develop a personality of serving others, the society, other people, the disadvantaged. You become much more giving in your approach. You're not really thinking of Ishvara at this point. So this is the difference between bhakti yoga and karma yoga. So you're not really always thinking of God, God, God. But what you think about the fact that there are other people who are suffering more than you are, and I want to help. This is called karma yoga. So this is a seva of the society, like in the case of for aim for seva. So what we do is we look for other children who are disadvantaged, and we try to help them a little bit from our own wealth. So this is called karma yoga. So this is also an attempt, if you see, to go from an identification with just this body to an identification with a bigger body. I remember this. I think I always share that for those of you in the karma yoga, that I remember when we first started this with Swamiji, Swami Dayanandji. A couple of things that he had mentioned really were very and made a big impression on me. And one of the things he said was that the way Ishvara has made the children of beings, living beings, is that the love of your own children is very natural to you. So no matter what kind of a living being you are, you could be an ant, you could be, a deer, you could be a lion, you could be a tiger, you could be a human being. But the mothers and fathers take care of their own kids, which is a very natural thing. And they should. This is how it is. The progeny and the whole world works. But what distinguishes the human being from the animals, we have the ability to not only help our own children, but somebody else's children. And this was told, that made an impression on me. I decided at least I will do a little bit, some job in that regard. So the Karma Yogi is also an attempt to go from a small person to a bigger person. So this is all the step, Prathama Pada, different forms. Now comes Jnana Yoga, which is really what the Advaita Vedanta we are directly serving. It doesn't mean that the bhakti is not important, that the karma is not important. Of course, all of them are important. But the vision of the Jnana Yoga needs to be understood. And what is that? This is what we're going to be studying next. Is see that you are the Sakshi of not just this body, but the entire universe. It's not as though you can be the Sakshi. Try very hard and, just squint your eyes and see like this and so. I don't know if I can't see it. It's not like that. It has nothing to do with attempts, nothing to do with karma, nothing to do with... You are already. Even now, when you're looking at it, you're not just looking at just your own body and so on. You're looking at the whole thing. But what happens is that my thoughts are not as a sakshi of the whole thing, but it is enclosed as I am just a small human being. You choose because of... Why do you just choose? Because of ajnanam. Because of ignorance. That's it. You choose to isolate it to a small body. You don't need to choose. You are already the Sakshi of the whole thing. But you deny that. You say, no, I'm just a small body. You're not just a small body because it is already, you're already looking at the Sakshi of the whole thing, no matter where you are. Sakshi of the whole thing. Then one can say that, so the Abhimana, look at this. You can argue, one can make a doubt that this is different from the Swapna Abhimana. Because in a Swapna Abhimana, identification with the entire dream state only occurs after you leave, after the dream is over. While you are in a dream, you don't have swapna abhimana. Then what do you have? You have a swapna purusha abhimana only, isn't it? While you are in a dream, you are only identified with the purusha, not with the entire dream. But here, how can you leave the Jagrat Avastha before you have the Jagrat Abhimana? Because your thinking is that I need to leave the Jagrat Avastha, and I cannot leave the Jagrat Avastha. Because if I leave the Jagrat Avastha, then I'm dead. This is my thinking. Swami Kandananda once said, he said, let me tell you, the life of a person who is trying to explain things to people, he says it is a funny life. People come up with all kinds of arguments, and they throw at you, and you have to answer them. So he was mentioning this. He said, one time there was a person that came to me and he said, Swamiji, all this that you talk about, Advaita and the Atma never dies and it's always that, where is the proof for it? Where's the proof for it? And Swamiji says, this is what we've been talking about, you're a living proof for it. He says, no, I don't believe this. So Swamiji says, what do you want me to do then? He says, okay. The only proof I will recognize is if you die and then come back again with me and tell I was dead, now I'm alive again, and so I'm the same Atma. That's the only way I will agree that the Atma never dies. Until then, all you say is just conjecture to me. Swamiji says, these are the kind of disciples I have. What am I supposed to do? He wants me to die. He wishes that I am dead. And then he also wishes that he's still alive while I'm take another birth and say, this is me again. Remember, I was dead. Now that I died, now I'm back again. He says, I have to deal with people like that. What am I supposed to do? He was laughing. So going back to this, then I'll end the class with just this one point. Important point, remember. That is that the feeling is that I can only recognize my identification with the whole creation after I'm dead. Just like I can only do the swapna abhimana after the swapna is over. Isn't it? No. There is a difference. There is a difference. What is the difference? Your abhimana with Jagrat Avastha can be done while you're still alive. How? So here, the example of the blueness of the sky should be considered seriously. I think it's a beautiful example. The blueness of the sky is false. It's an adhyaropa. It is false. But once a person becomes old enough to understand that the blueness of the sky is not in the space, but it is just a very strange phenomena. The blueness is a very strange phenomena. You cannot use the blueness for anything. You cannot you cannot collect the blueness and dye your clothes from it. The blueness has no weight. It has no beginning, no end. It just occurs. And the space is not blue. When that is understood, even when you see the blueness, do you ever mistake it for a quality of the space? No. You say this is something very interesting. Really speaking, when you think about the blueness of the sky, Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, this is a very interesting decision by Ishvara that whenever you have infinity, it is blue in color. Now, where is the logic for it? It could have been yellow in color. It isn't. It is blue in color. Similarly, when you have a small body of water, it is not blue. When you have a huge, infinite, like large body of water, it becomes blue. So the blueness is a very interesting thing. So now to apply that, it is not necessary for the blueness to disappear before your conclusion is that the space is not blue. You just do that discrimination. So therefore, the abhimana of the Jagrata Avastha, it is not necessary for me to die from it. Once it is understood that it is just an arbitrary thing that I have taken, and this arbitrariness of the prarabdha karma, all that will be discussed, but at least as a possibility, it should be clear to me that it is very possible for me to take the first step towards an understanding, which is to move from an identification with Vishwa to Vaishvanara. Pathamapada. To this we will continue. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So good to see you. Wonderful. I just heard from Arvind that he has found the publication of Swami Akhandananda's books, which I also knew was both in Mumbai as well as in Vrindavan. He was supposed to go to Vrindavan to pick up, but he found through talking to people that he would rather do it from Mumbai, and he found a good contact there, so he's going to do that. And what he said was that this person who he talked to was very familiar with Swami Akhandananda. And so Akhandananda used to stay in Mumbai when he was there. So Arvind Taylor would, I think, visit that place and get a better idea of, something more about Swamiji. So it'll be very interesting. So I think he's going to go there next month. All right. All right, very good. I will hope to see you next time.